I've got all the money in the world, or I wish I had all the money in the world, but that's the name of the movie. And it's based on true events, and it comes out on Christmas, and it's about the kidnapping of John Paul Getty III, who is the grandson of John Paul Getty, who at one point was the richest man in all of history. So it stars Michelle Williams, Mark Wahlberg, and Christopher Plummer, and it's directed by Ridley Scott. And then the interesting thing about this is originally Christopher Plummer wasn't in it.
Yeah.
It was Kevin Spacey. Kevin Spacey was originally playing John Paul Getty I. And when the news broke, 2 months ago now almost, they went back and reshot a lot of this film and said they were like, we're going to keep our Christmas Day release, but we're going to get this done and we're going to cast Christopher Plummer in it. And having seen the movie now, I'm like, they must have reshot so much of it. I do not know how they got it done. I mean, they got it done because Ridley Scott's a genius and probably had it all set up and ready to go. But yeah, he's in so much of the movie. It's not a bit part. So
I was just going to say, was it like a 2-day job for Spacey?
He's in so much of this movie. And so the fact that they got it done. And then my favorite part of it is Christopher Plummer got a Golden Globe nomination for this role.
I love that.
It's like, oh, and I really can't imagine like someone Kevin Spacey's age even playing this role, because John Paul Getty was so much older when this took place. So it's like, he has an adult son in it. How is Kevin Spacey, who's 50, 60, going to play someone that old? So I thought Christopher Plummer was a great choice. I'm sad they didn't cast him in the first place, but I'm glad they've replaced him with this role anyway. I did not know about the story of this kidnapping. Like, I had no idea. It took place in the 70s, so it wasn't really alive. Sorry. And just didn't know that much about it. I think the only thing I knew about the Gettys actually is about the Getty Museum. I didn't realize that they are oil bajillionaires. Yeah. So Christopher Plummer is amazing in this. He was great. I was so impressed by his performance. At one point, I don't want to say I found him riveting to watch. It's just someone who embodied that sense of billionaire so well. And so I loved watching it. Michelle Williams plays his daughter-in-law. I don't know what's going on with her accent in it. It's very strange, but maybe it's true to the actual woman who at the time. But really, this is it's a story of a kidnapping, right? So this teenage boy gets kidnapped in Italy. At first they don't think it's real, and they think it's like a hoax to get money out of the family. And so John Paul Getty says he won't pay the ransom, and so it's about how to get this kid back after that. And I won't go.
And where did they live?
They lived all over, but at the time they were living in Italy. So the kid was there. They have roots in San Francisco. Actually, I think some of the Getty family might still be here. So hello, Gettys, if you're listening. Sorry, someone in your family got kidnapped 40 years ago. I don't want to go too much into the plot because I didn't know it. I was like, oh my God, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? I'm sure you could look it up right now, but don't bother. You should just see the movie because it was a really good movie. I thought the performances were great. Mark Wahlberg plays this kind of former CIA, FBI guy who's kind of secret spy. And I was like, I feel like you're a tiny bit out of place because no matter what, I always just hear Mark Wahlberg as Mark Wahlberg because he can't get rid of that accent.
Yep.
But I was willing to overlook it in this. So it's well shot. It's well acted. It's an interesting story. It's just the right amount of time. It's a little long, but it didn't feel like it, which is really nice because some of these movies, especially because we're in award season and everything, it's coming out right now, and so it's oh well, I have to be 3 hours long to get an award because we have to have the performance be this long. So I appreciated this movie. I thought it was one of the better choices that you could see over this kind of holiday 2 weeks that they're coming out. So 4.3 out of 5.
Ooh, nice. 4.3. That's awesome because I definitely want to see it. And there's a lot of movies coming out this season. You said 9,
I think there are at least 9 major movies coming out because the thing is, it's awards season, and so everyone wants to capitalize on the Christmas box office, and 2, you have to come out before the end of the year if you want to be a contender for any of the awards for 2018 or 2017's award season,
which is all the Oscars,
Golden Globes, all of it. No, and you have to have a certain amount of theatrical run, but because we're San Francisco, we get a lot of these movies before other people do because we're one of the markets that are we have a lot of Academy voters around here, so they like to release these movies around this time.
I never realized that.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yes. So I've got The Greatest Showman, which did get nominated for a Golden Globe or 2, which I find bizarre because I really wanted to like it. It's another. Almost all the movies this year, not all of them, but a lot of them are based on true stories, which is always interesting. But it's nice when people can find new true stories to try and tell. So it's based on the life of P.T. Barnum, who founded the Barnum Circus. And it stars Hugh Jackman, Michelle Williams again, so she's in everything this year.
Wow.
And Zac Efron and Zendaya. And the music is from the La La Land songwriters. Although I said it last year and I'm sticking to it, I think La La Land was overhyped. I really think it was kind of overrated.
Yeah, it was a good movie, but it wasn't the best thing ever.
Yeah, but people were obsessed obsessed with it. But when you follow something like that up, you better deliver big. And unfortunately, I don't think this really did it because it didn't really impress me. I think the biggest problem with it is it wanted to be a Broadway show, but it was in a movie. And I think a lot of the numbers would have been much more interesting if you'd been like in a live theater and it'd been around you and, you know, you'd been able to like hear the music live because like having it mixed down in a theater is just sort of like, okay, I guess. And, you know, like the audience within the movie is like chanting along. And I think the idea would be like if you were at the show, you'd probably chant along or something like that. Mm-hmm. So I think they may have made a mistake in making this into a musical movie. The first half is like frenetic with music. It's just non-stop, and it's not that great of music. It's not that great. And I'm also like not super big on little kids singing for a super extended amount of time. Mm-hmm. And the first half is a lot of that. It's a lot. I was like, oh my God, I think I'm going to get a headache from watching this. The second half calmed down a little bit, which is nice. And there were maybe like one or two songs and scenes where I was like, man, this was a nice moment. This movie had potential. And so it makes it even more disappointing. And at one point I was like, man, I think this would have been more interesting if it had been told from one of the performers' points of view, right? Instead of P.T. Barnum's. Because, okay, yes, I'm sorry you had to struggle to impress your wife's rich family and you wanted to sort of ascend in society, but you're also still a white dude. Sorry, bro, you've got some advantages.
I do feel like putting Zac Efron in there was a bad idea too because he's in it, right?
Yeah, he's in it.
Okay, I was going to say he's not the most lovable guy either.
Yes, so he's supposed to be, I think, charming in it, and I think he actually like sort of pulls it off. But Zac Efron is so modern to me. Like he just screams 20 whatever.
Yeah.
And Hugh Jackman I think could pull it off a little bit more. But
totally.
And Zendaya, I'm like, you are just like 2017 embodied. Also, I was a little weirded out because there's a romance between Zac Efron and Zendaya, and the other thing I saw her in this year was Spider-Man Homecoming, where she plays a high schooler. And like, yo, Zac Efron's 30, so this feels a little weird.
How old is she?
She's
like
21. I literally had to look it up afterwards. I was like, and I heard someone who worked at the theater behind me while the credits were rolling be like, she should not be with him. I was like, yes, you are correct. So that made me like a tiny bit uncomfortable. Not gonna lie, but she is 21, so she just looks really young, whatever. Yeah. But again, I think to your point, the casting is a little odd on those points, and Hugh Jackman is like such a charming person, so you like the character to a degree. But then I was like, who is this movie for? Because at first I was like, oh, it's gonna be a squeaky clean, kids family friendly movie. You know, it's about a circus, it's got elephants, it's got all the fun stuff. And I was like, oh no, there are a couple points where it gets a little darker. Okay, so it's not that. It's a musical, but it's not like super musical-y, so you're not really going to get that La La Land audience. And I was like, it's not very male-oriented, it feels like, even though it has two guys as the star of it. It's like, who are you making this movie for? Hugh Jackman's probably for a slightly older audience, like Zac Efron and Zendaya for a younger audience. So I think by trying to appeal to everyone, you're not appealing to anyone necessarily. Sure. So I really wanted to like it too. I'm so frustrated. So the most interesting parts to me were the performance, the circus performance. I was like, that would have been much more interesting because within the world of this movie, they're all races and genders. And so like that would have been a more interesting story about how these people came together and were given a chance, but they instead went with P.T. Barnum's story. So whatever. And then there's this whole subplot with Rebecca Ferguson, who plays like an opera singer who P.T. Barnum brings to the U.S. because his whole big thing is he wants to be like taken seriously and nobody took him seriously at the circus. So he's like, oh, well, I'm going to bring in an opera singer and become like a show promoter basically. So he's the greatest showman. And
without totally going off track, do they explain why it's Barnum and Bailey's?
No,
now?
they don't. That was my thing. I was like, I thought Zac Efron was going to be Bailey. And I was like, he is not. He is not Bailey. Who is Bailey? I don't want a sequel to this movie, though, so I don't care. So this was going to be, my family goes to the movies at Christmas because we're Jewish, and this was going to be our family movie. And I was like, no, I think I need to check it out first. It is not. It's not. I don't think it should be anybody's family movie, honestly. I'm so sorry, but it's just really disappointing. So 2.1 out of 5.
Ooh, all right. And again, what was it called?
The Greatest Showman.
Yeah, so don't go see that one.
Yeah, don't go see that one. You can skip that one.
The good news is you have another movie.
I have one more.
Hopefully it's something people want to see.
I think it's something people want to see. I think it's something people are going to be divided on because, yes, it's Molly's Game, another Christmas Day release, and another big give me an Oscar film.
Okay.
Yes, it should just have that printed as the subtitle. It's the directorial debut of Aaron Sorkin, who you probably know as having written The West Wing, A Few Good Men, The Social Network, all that sort of stuff. And he's got a very distinct style.
Wow.
And
so he's never directed before?
Apparently not. Yeah.
Amazing.
And possibly with good reason.
Okay.
Yes. So again, Aaron, I could say his style is very Aaron Sorkin-y, which is now like a term in, the film vernacular, because he really does have a very distinct, fast talking, lots of walking and talking shots. So it stars Jessica Chastain as Molly Bloom, and this is another one based on a true story. She was an Olympic class skier who became one of the world's most exclusive poker game runners.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not think you were going there with that one.
I didn't know either, but I was like, I'm intrigued. I love Jessica Chastain. I think she's a great actress. This is an interesting story that, again, I hadn't heard before.
I loved her in The Help.
Yes.
Zero Dark 30,
Zero
obviously.
Dark 30. She's had a bunch of great movies come out in the last few years, and I've kind of disappointed that she's not been recognized for it, and this should have been a great vehicle for it. No, I don't think it's going to be.
And from Sacramento, too, by the way.
Yes, local girl-ish, local-ish. Yeah, but so she plays Molly Bloom, and it's a little bizarre because she plays like young Molly Bloom, who's probably like 20. And look, Jessica Chastain looks amazing. She's gorgeous, but she just comes off as mature.
Yeah.
And then she plays slightly older Molly Bloom, who's running these poker games, because after college she decides to not go to grad school and becomes a poker queen or something. It's very bizarre. So I was a little weirded out by that decision to have her play both of them. I mean, it's fine. I don't have a huge problem with it. But the other challenge is it's told sort of non-linearly. So they're going back and forth between the FBI busts her, and so there's an investigation into that. And so they go back and forth between like her coming out of school and then her running these poker games at the height of her power, essentially, and then also her being investigated by the FBI years later. So there's 3 stages, and she looks exactly the same in all of them. So it's just like, okay.
That's it's creepy too. Now they do the CG to make you look younger.
Yes,
they did
thankfully
it to Kurt
they did
Russell.
not do that. They did not do that because she looks great, and she pulled it off in that sense. So it's also got Idris Elba, who I love to bits. He plays her lawyer in the kind of last part of the stage of the film. Kevin Costner plays her father. Michael Cera and Chris O'Dowd play a few of the poker players. It's got an interesting cast.
Wow.
Michael Cera was the most surprising part of it. So again, because they wouldn't the big thing about Molly Bloom is she wouldn't name who was in her poker games, right? She had like celebrities. She had, I'm sure, like, members of the mob playing in her games. She had all these crazy people, and she wouldn't name names. And she wrote a book. So this is all based on her book. So she had a very interesting life. And my frustration was, I feel like it just doesn't come across in this movie. I feel like somebody should have stood up to Aaron Sorkin and said, like, you need to edit this differently, or you need to, I don't know about the directing part because that mostly has to do with performance, but like, I just think like nobody said no to him. And that's a big problem when you let someone with a name like Aaron Sorkin direct and write and all these things, because it doesn't mean, just because you're really great at one thing doesn't mean you are going to be great at the other thing. And like cutting your teeth on something like this is a big, big gamble.
Yeah.
And so it's, it's a lot of fast talking. It's a lot of whatever. And my biggest frustration is it was a movie written by a man who thinks he knows how to write strong women, and at the end doesn't succeed. But he thinks he did a great job. I promise you. Aaron Sorkin is patting himself on the back, being like, I did such a great job writing a strong female character. Sure, she's a strong female character. But if you have this moment come in where this dude, someone comes in and mansplains to her, like, all her problems in the world, that's not a strong female character. She should come to that realization on her own through this course of her character progression. That's just bad writing in general, to have this Deus Ex scene where somebody comes in and is like, well, actually, here's what's been wrong with you the whole time. Then what do we need the rest of the movie for? If you're going to solve this all in one magical scene, where's the resolution? So I was very frustrated by that. That's when they lost me in this movie. I was like, okay, nope, this isn't great. So it's long. It's very long. It's 2 hours and 20 minutes. It should have been 2 hours at the most. The performances are fine, but again, it's a lot of, if you don't like Aaron Sorkin, you're not going to like this because it's just fast talking, a lot of voiceover, a lot of like, I'm smarter than you. It's really what it is. It's self-important and it thinks it's smarter than you are. Yeah. And that's kind of rude to an audience, honestly. So I really wanted to like it. And I think I'm probably going to be on the lower scale of this because I was just so frustrated by, again, here's a role for a woman that should have been really great, but it got undermined at the end. So I'm only going to give it 3.3 out of 5.